What's going on, guys? So today we're out here with cicadas screaming at us, but that's just a good indication that it's still summer. And you were looking at this rig because we have a video that's going to help inform you, a lot of you who may not haul this, but may be hauling a heavy fifth wheel, a heavy trailer that puts their vehicle into a different class of vehicle. And they have to understand what ends up happening and what you might need to do with your license to make sure that you're safe and legal. And today, we actually have some folks out here to share some of that information with us as well. So we have the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Highway Patrol on hand to kind of go over some of these things that are going to be incredibly important if you're hauling travel trailers, fifth wheels, and big heavy goosenecks. Hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so I have a very special guest with me today. This is Rob Mallory with Texas Department of Public Safety Highway Patrol, and he is a Public Information Officer, or PIO. So if you hear PIO, that's what he does. Rob, do you want to take a moment and kind of introduce yourself and what you do, how long you've been with DPS, and what the mission of DPS truly is?
My name is Rob Mallory. I'm what's known as the Safety Education Sergeant or Public Information Officer for DPS. I've been with the department for going on 8 years now. I've been in the PIO world for just a little over 2. And really, you know, my job and the mission of everyone in the Texas Department of Public Safety is to ensure voluntary compliance with all Texas transportation laws, or traffic laws here in the state of Texas.
Okay, and you have a couple different divisions. One of those is the CVE division, right? Or am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, Commercial Motor Vehicle Enforcement.
Okay, and what is their task specifically?
You mentioned we have several different divisions. Our Commercial Motor Vehicle Enforcement, or CVE division, you know, they are additionally trained and certified by federal regulation to inspect commercial motor vehicles that are traveling along Texas roadways, and to ensure their safe operation, and they're in compliance with all federal regulations.
Okay.
So they receive additional training.
But they can pull you over for speeding even if you're not in a commercial motor vehicle, of course, right?
Absolutely. You know, any trooper, whether they be highway patrol or commercial motor vehicle enforcement, if they see a traffic violation, they can stop you for it. Okay, perfect.
And before I go any further, because I do review trucks and SUVs, what do you think of the Tahoes? I mean, this is one super aggressive looking interceptor version of a Tahoe. How do you like these things?
They're wonderful vehicles. I mean, the black and white, you know, that we're known for in Texas DPS, it's iconic. And, you know, it's a great privilege to, you know, to drive one up and down the highway every single day. And, you know, people know when you see that black and white behind you, it's time to start acting right.
Yes, you are absolutely right. But when you see the black and white state trooper vehicle, it's like, what am I doing? Is everything okay? My mirrors look good. My tire pressure good. Is everything in good shape? No, that is awesome. And first and foremost, I really appreciate what you do, because you guys are out there putting yourselves in tremendous amount of danger, especially when you are pulling people over on the side of the road at night because of something that's going on, and you have to be out there standing in front of traffic, hoping nobody's going to be texting and driving and veer off the road to hit you guys. I know that happens a lot.
Unfortunately, it does happen a lot. Yeah. I mean, even to you know, regular motorists who are trying to resolve flat tires, or, you know, they broke down on the side of the road, dealing with their issues. You know, that's one of the main reasons we're out there. You know, to stop distracted drivers, intoxicated drivers, speeding drivers, because they lose control and they end up hitting somebody on the side of the road just trying to fix an issue.
Yep. Well, I really appreciate having you out here. This is definitely going to be a collaboration where we can talk about towing safety, because that's such a big part of my channel. Now, I know most people who watch my channel are going to be focused more on the RV side. So let's talk about that first.
Sure.
So whenever I knew that we wanted a fifth wheel, or we knew as a family that we wanted a fifth wheel, we knew we would get into weights that generally far exceed a traditional conventionally towed travel trailer, like the Surveyor right there. So when we got our fifth wheel, our very first one, I wasn't as concerned about the legal aspect of towing it because I didn't know enough to be concerned. That makes sense. I had a Class C license. You see people driving all over the country hauling their RV. But then I dug in deeper to make sure that I'm doing it right. And I found out that in the state of Texas, if you exceed a certain weight, you absolutely are required to have an upgraded license. Do you want to take a moment and kind of talk about that?
Sure. So your regular driver, daily driver, gets issued what we call a Class C license, which authorizes them to drive a passenger vehicle on a public highway here in the state of Texas. Obviously, if they need to move stuff around, you know, get a trailer, even some of these different types of campers, they're with that license, they are legally allowed to do that. However, when you start getting into heavier styles of vehicles outside of normal passenger cars, SUVs, and trucks, now you start to worry about your combination weight rating or the overall weight of the vehicle that you are driving. The standard is basically 26,001 pounds. If you have a vehicle or combination of vehicles that weigh over 26,001, now you're looking into getting that Class B or Class A driver's license, not a commercial license, but a regular driver's license for a Class B or Class A type vehicle.
Yep, and that requires a little bit additional testing. You have to do the computer test, which I had to do, and then you also have to do the driving test as well, which doesn't require you to do like the medical card. You don't have to get a DOT number. You don't have to get an IFTA number on the vehicle. None of that stuff. It's basically saying that I'm a private hauler, that I understand I'm towing something that makes my weight go at 26,001 pound or greater, and it's an upgraded license to show that you have done the necessary training and the necessary courses to get that upgraded license. Right?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, again, we want voluntary compliance with the law, and we want to make sure that everyone driving down the highway is operating their vehicles or combination of vehicles safely.
Okay, now we talked a little bit about that, and the first thing I did when Sergeant Mallory came out here was I showed you my driver's license, because I do not want there to be any confusion that I'm saying it, but I'm not doing it. And I think that that's also really important. So you looked at my license, everything looked good?
Yep, everything looked good.
Let's talk about this setup here real quick. So we have my F450, which is hauling a trailer that's been rated to 25,000 pounds, actually 25,990 pounds. And there's a reason for that, right? If you get over 26,001 pounds or greater, you have to pay an additional tax. It's called a FET tax. But on top of that, I don't need a 30,000 pound GVWR trailer. This is the heaviest piece of equipment I'm ever gonna haul. And even if I throw my tractor on there, I'm still gonna be under the cargo capacity rating of this trailer, which would be about 15,000 pounds. The trailer weighs about 10,000 pounds when it's empty. So 25,000 pounds leaves me 15,000 pounds of cargo capacity. I've chained it up, I've secured it, and I'm doing it the way that I believe CVE, the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Unit, would expect, even though the rules may be a little different when you're a private hauler. But my goal, though, is to be as safe as possible no matter where I'm towing this thing, because the last thing I want to do is run into a situation where an accident occurs. So I bring that up because when we talk about accidents, that's really where things can get bad. If you are hauling over a certain weight, 26,001 pounds or greater, you're involved in an accident. From a law enforcement perspective, legal perspective, and insurance perspective, things can get dicey if you don't have the correct license. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when someone is involved in a crash, we want to verify driver's licenses, we want to verify insurance information, because that's all going to be part of the crash report. And when we start looking at trailers and things being hauled on trailers, now we're going to start looking at the weights of the trailers, what's being hauled in the trailer, weights of the vehicle and things like that, and start doing that math to see, does that driver have the right type of license for what they are towing at that time.
Okay, now if they don't, let's say they have a Class C license and they're hauling a big RV, big fifth wheel that weighs 15,000 pounds behind a truck with a GVWR of 14,000 pounds, clearly going over the 26,001 pound mark. What could happen? What's worst possible scenario?
For many people, getting that citation, because basically you're not licensed to drive that combination set. Mm-hmm. So now you're operating without a license. Mm-hmm. Even though you do have a driver's license, you're operating a type of vehicle without the appropriate license, so you're unlicensed. Okay. And now if that vehicle is involved in a crash in some sort of way, I mean, obviously crashes are, an unpleasant experience in and of themselves, but now you're looking at maybe additional fines, insurance rates going up, and you open yourself up to, civil and criminal liability, just depending on the circumstances of what happens. But, it's one of those things like at DPS, we're charged to investigate and answer all relevant questions when a crash occurs, especially a fatal crash for the families. And those are questions when you start talking about people hauling equipment or travel trailers and things like that. were they doing so properly?
Yep. So I guess a follow-up question to that is there a possibility, because I'm assuming if they're driving without a license because it's the incorrect license, is there a possibility they could be required to leave the trailer on the side of the road, disconnect so the combination weight is no longer putting them out of compliance for the type of driver's license they have?
Yeah, that's a real possibility where the officer or trooper says, hey, you're not licensed to tow this trailer. You need to unhook, park it here, get somebody with the correct license over here, and you can retrieve it that way, and then and don't operate on the highway until you have gotten yourself appropriately licensed for this trailer.
Now, we always talk about weight, but we also have to worry about length as well. So do you want to dive into a scenario that somebody might get pulled over because they're over length?
So yeah, we see that quite a bit in Texas. We have people travel, down to Texas in the winter months because it's a little warmer here. So they bring their big motor homes, motor coaches. They're towing a trailer behind them, and they're towing another vehicle behind them. And in the state of Texas, you're considered over length if you're over the length of total 65 feet. And so you can have a situation where a trooper is seeing this combination of vehicles rolling down the highway, and based on their training, their experience, they'll be like, that looks like it might be over 65 feet. So they'll initiate a traffic stop, explain the reason why they stopped that driver, and they'll pull out a measuring tape and they'll measure the length. If it ends up being under 65 feet, they're gonna say, hey, drive safe, you're good to go. If they're over 65 feet, now we're gonna ask to see driver's license, insurance, and we'll start looking at those things like, do they have the right type of license? In addition to being over length.
Okay, now, one thing, we talked a little bit about a Class A versus a Class B, just if you need one, and I'm gonna try to answer this and let me know if I'm right or not. So a Class A is required whenever your combination vehicle is 26,001 pounds or greater, and the combination vehicles add up together to equal that weight.
Cool.
If you are driving a vehicle and the power unit, the actual tractor, let's say, or the bus or the RV motorhome, the GVWR of 26,001 pounds or greater, that's a Class B. Am I correct?
Correct.
But your trailer is under 10,000 pounds.
Yes. Now you have that same motor coach, right? That's 26,001, and then you add a trailer that's over 10,001.
Class
now
A.
You need the Class A.
So the Class A is just the smarter one to get, I would imagine.
If you're going to go in and get something, you might as well get the Class A, because then you're covered for any other scenario below. You're authorized to drive anything below that Class A.
Yep, and we're talking about non-CDL license.
Absolutely.
Unless you conduct commerce. Okay, so my next question is related to a setup like this. So if you were to see me drive by you, or let's just assume a commercial vehicle enforcement officer saw me drive by, would they automatically assume in your mind that something like this is commercial, or do they typically look for more signs that it's commercial?
They're going to look for more signs that it's commercial. Obviously, if you're operating a vehicle in commerce, you're required to have that DOT number displayed on the side of the vehicle. So they're going to look for things like that. They're going to look for more than just what you're set up right here, your pickup truck and your trailer with your equipment on it. They're going to need a little bit more information to see if, is that person in commerce? Are they advertising a business or stuff like that? That individual commits a traffic infraction in front of them, they can stop them, and then they can ask that question like, hey, what are you doing? Is this your equipment? Is this your trailer? Oh no, it's this belongs to my boss's company. I'm taking it from one place to another. Okay, now we have an issue.
Okay, so the part that I do want to emphasize, though, and this is really important, is because this is completely private, and we live in Texas, right? There's a lot of ranchers, farmers that own heavy equipment and have to move it to get it serviced, have to move it from one property to another property. So I imagine you guys see commercial-looking equipment on trailers all the time here in Texas, and many other states, many other farming states where there's a lot of agricultural going on. Now, this setup, again, to a lot of people, they're going to look at this, people watching the channel, and they're going to say, that is commercial. I don't care what you say, what you do. But the reality, though, is I'm non-commercial and it's private use. And you made that comment earlier that you can tell, because I don't have stickers, I don't have anything that indicates this is for any type of commercial use, that I'm private. So can you just confirm to the people watching this that when you look at a setup like this, nothing about this, as long as it's not used in commerce, is illegal. I can tow my trailer, I can tow my equipment, because I'm not doing it for commercial gain. I'm not towing as part of a business to excavate property or move stuff around. And it even comes down to the simple fact, I'm not even asking for lunch money or fuel money from somebody, because that could even constitute commerce, right? So do you want to comment on that real quick?
Yeah, so basically you don't need that commercial driver's license, that CDL, if you're not being paid to transport or move whatever it is that you have. If you are, hauling equipment or a combination of vehicles for yourself and for your own personal use, like you have properties in different locations and you store this piece of equipment here on your property, but you may take it to your other property to do brush clearing, then you're good. You don't need that commercial driver's license. But if your buddy asks you to bring it out there to clear his property and he offers you money to do that, now you're in commerce, now you need that DOT number, now you need that CDL, now you need to do the drug testing and all these other things that come along with it. As long as you are not making money from your own personal equipment, you do not need that CDL. Yeah. The general rule of thumb is you're in commerce if you're receiving some type of compensation for your efforts. Okay. Talking about the RV trailers, right? You're talking about people getting their license. So you have somebody who knows, like, hey, I'm gonna buy a fifth wheel camper. I don't have my Class A yet. I need to take the test and get my license upgraded. But they went ahead and bought the camper, right? Mm-hmm. And so now you go and ask your buddy who has that Class A license, hey, can you move it from the RV dealer to my property while I'm waiting on the license? Okay. And you offer him money to do that. Well, now that person's in commerce, and they need a CDL. And they need a CDL.
Rob, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming out here. I think we beat that topic dead, so I hopefully people got some good information out of that. We're going to also make another video talking about another safety-related topic, specifically about RVs. So again, Rob, any final words?
No, I mean, just, check out the DPS website, dps.texas.gov, to see what type of licensing you need based on your vehicle and your trailer weight ratings. Also refer to the Texas Driver Handbook. That'll contain that information there as well. But if you ever have a question, again, our goal as troopers is voluntary compliance with the law. So don't be afraid. I know we have this myth about us that you don't want to mess with DPS, but at the same time, like, our goal is voluntary compliance. So we ensure that by making sure people know the law. So when people ask us those questions, we try to find the answers for them. So make sure you ask your specific question about what you're doing. Don't try to, I don't want to say this, don't ask it in a way to get the answer that you want. Tell us what your exact scenario is, because everybody's situation is going to be unique, and we need to know the exact specifics of what it is you're trying to do to give you the best advice and ensure that you are in compliance with the law.
Go into it open-minded, not go into it trying to prove your point, in other words.
Absolutely.
Yep. So again, a big shout out to the folks over at the Texas DPS, Texas Department of Public Safety Highway Patrol, and Mr. Rob Mallory. Definitely appreciate you coming out here, helping educate, helping spread the message. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.